Hello everyone, today I am going to speak about Diona, a character I overlooked, and hopefully with this video you won't overlook as well. So in this video I will go over why you should build her and how to, by going over her build, artifacts, teams, tips, and other important things. So let's begin. Beginning with her kit, Diona is an amazing character as she both heals and shields characters. So if you were to build her, this one character would provide two important needs of a team. Her shielding occurs through her skill, which has two modes, a tap and a hold. In both of these modes, Diona will fire icy pods that on hit will generate a shield. The shield's strength is based on Diona's HP, and its duration is based on the number of paws cast. Characters protected by the shield will gain 10% movement speed and have their stamina consumption reduced by 10%. Thanks to her talent, Cat's Tail Secret Menu. Some tips on this skill is 1. Her shield forms whenever her paws are cast, so they're not reliant on hitting enemies. Next, you just about always want to hold her skill, as holding her skill will generate more particles, and her shield will absorb 75% more damage than her tap shield. As for Diona's burst, Diona will launch a drink that on hit creates an AoE that will damage enemies with cryo every 2 seconds and heal characters within it. The healing scales off of Diona's HP, and her burst lasts for 12 seconds. The healing from her burst is good, though not as great as others. However, you will have a shield most of the time, so it's not really necessary for Diona to have huge healing. Enemies within the burst will have 10% decreased attack thanks to her talent, Drunkard's Farce. This talent, though not amazing, is a nice little talent that will allow your characters to heal and give you some breathing room. For talent prioritization, I'd recommend to prioritize her skill over her burst, as with her skill, you don't have to rely on gathering energy to keep your party alive. Rather, you'd have a good shield every 12 seconds that's only hindered by a 2-second downtime. So after her skill, you should then prioritize her burst, and then you can level up her normal attacks as much as you see fit, though as a healer and shielder, you'll never be normal attacking with her. Moving on to her artifacts, for those early in the game, I'd recommend to use 2-piece Adventurer and 2-piece Exile or Scholar. Instead of this combination, you can use 2-piece Exile and 2 Scholar for a nice 40% increase of energy recharge. Or you can use 4-piece Exile to give energy to both Diona and the rest of your party. For late game players, you can use 4-piece Noblesse to give a good 20% increase in attack to your entire party. This set is great, as with this, Diona will not only heal and shield your party, but also buff them, making her even more of an amazing support. If not Noblesse, you can use the combination of 2-piece Tenacity and 2-piece Emblem of Severed Fate, or 2-piece Tenacity and 2-piece Maidens for a good 24% increase in healing. For her artifact main stats, you essentially want to run some form of triple HP on Diona, as HP is such a great stat on her, increasing her healing and shield strength. If you're using the Favonius Warbow and can't get enough crit rate to where you can reliably trigger its passive, you can replace her HP Circlet with crit rate. If you don't have enough energy recharge, you can replace her Sands with an energy recharge Sands. Yet with her bow, substats, and party members, energy recharge shouldn't be a problem, so you should still be able to run an HP Sands. If you already have a lot of HP and enough energy recharge on Diona, you can give her a Cryo Goblet to have her deal some extra damage, but as a support, her talent scaling is low, so don't expect her damage to be great if you do this. Lastly, you can give her a healing bonus circlet, but running an HP percent circlet would net more value, as her shield strength and healing would increase. For substats, you want to aim for HP percent and energy recharge. For C0 Diona, ideally you want around 200% energy recharge. For C1 Diona, I'd recommend around 180. For a C1 Diona with Favonius Warbow, aim for around 165. Beyond these two substats, there really isn't anything else Diona needs, so you could then aim for crit rate, crit damage, and attack percent. However, once again, as a support, her damage will be low, so if your artifacts don't roll crit or attack percent, don't stress over it and unnecessarily spend more resin on her artifacts. I'll now cover the best weapons to run on Diona, one of them being the Favonius Warbow, as it gives Diona energy recharge, which will help her get enough energy for her 80 cost burst. This bow's passive will also benefit your entire party, as all characters will receive white energy particles. And white particles are great, as when a character receives energy particles different to their element, they only gain a small amount of energy. Yet white particles give the full amount of energy to all characters, regardless of their element. So this bow should be used if your Diona or party lacks energy recharge. You could also use the Elegy for the end on Diona. It has a great 55% energy recharge substat. However, with the type base attack, it'd be better used on a character that's actually meant to deal damage. So I'd advise to only use this on Diona if you have no other bow that has energy recharge. If you already have a decent amount of ER and want Diona's shield to have a better uptime, you can instead use the Sacrificial Bow, as this bow's passive resets skill cooldowns. Also as a tip, since Diona's skill actually has multiple hits, like 5 when held, all of those hits have a 40% chance to end her skill's cooldown. The last option is the recurve bow. Although a 3-star, this bow is actually a good weapon for Diona thanks to its HP percent substat. Diona will be dealing less damage because of the bow's lower base attack, but Diona is not meant to deal damage anyway. If you do end up using this bow, it'd likely be best to run an energy recharge stance on Diona unless she has enough energy recharge through her artifact substat. I also want to cover the new bows added in 2.7 if any of you are curious. First, with the Elan's signature bow, it's a decent option. It's a bow more focused on damage, so it has a big crit damage substat and a little HP percent from its passive. I would not recommend to either get or use this bow on Diona unless you're building her to deal damage, so as a support it really doesn't help her. For the free 4-star bow, Fading Twilight, it's a decent option for Diona as it has a good 30% energy recharge substat, but it has a passive that increases damage, which for support Diona is basically useless. All in all, for support Diona, the only new bow to be used is the 4-star bow, though the Favones and Sacrificial bows are better options. So unless other characters are using or you don't have the bows I mentioned, you should only then use the Fading Twilight. For Diona's constellations, aside from her C4, her constellations are great. The ones you want to aim for is her C1, which will regenerate her 15 energy at the end of her burst. This constellation is great as her burst uptime is inherently increased, so you don't have to worry about building high ER on Diona. Next, aim for her C2, which increases her shield strength by 15%. Then her C6, which is likely her best constellation. It greatly increases Diona's healing when characters' HP are at or below 50%, and characters with HPs above 50% will have their elemental mastery increased by 200. This constellation is amazing as with it, Diona's healing will be increased when your characters are near death. Moreover, the 200 EM will increase melt and vaporized damage by 21%, increase overloaded, superconduct, electrocharge, and swirl damage by 102%, and lastly increase Kazuha's elemental damage buffing by 8%. This constellation has great value as with it, so many teams and characters are buffed on top of Diona's own healing. So if possible, you should try to get this, though Diona is usable and will get the job done at C0, she gets much better with these constellations. Now I'll speak about Diona's team comps. With how great Diona is, she fits in just about every team and can support anyone. But for specifics, the first team I'll mention is a melt team. This team consists of Diona, Rosaria, Diluc, and a buffer like Bennett or an animal support. In this team, Diona will protect all characters while acting as a battery to the Cryo sub DPS. With C6, you will buff the melt damage done by the Pyro DPS and increase the swirl damage dealt by the Anima support if you decide to use one. And with 2 characters being Cryo, all characters' crit rate will be increased by 15%. Alternatives to this team would be to replace Rosario with Kaya or Ganyu. If you want to trigger Vaporize instead, you can replace Rosario with Hydra characters like Xingqiu, Ayato, Mona, or Kokumi. Diluc can be replaced with Hu Tao or Yanfei. You can also change the team to where you trigger reverse melt, where a cryo DPS would trigger melt. So an example of this team would be Diona, Xiangling, Ganyu, and an animal support. The next team is a superconduct team consisting of Diona, Raiden, Eula, and Fischl. This team can be used for any physical DPS, but this team greatly benefits Eula and Razor as with their bursts and being DPSs, they're out on the field for a long time, so these two will especially need some sort of healing and shielding, both of which Diona provides. Different options for this team would be to replace either Raiden or Fischl with Beidou or Sara, and you can replace Eula with any other physical DPS like Razor as I mentioned, Kaya, or Jean. The last team is a freeze team, having Ganyu, Ayato, and Kazuha. This team is great as Diona will battery Ganyu's burst, which when used alongside Ayato's burst, permanently freezes enemies. With Diona C6, she buffs Kazuha's damage and his elemental damage buffing. You can replace Ganyu with Kaya and Rosaria. You can also replace Ayato with Child or Mona. Lastly, you can replace Bennett with Venti, Jean, or Sucrose. And that is everything. I hope you all enjoyed and gained from this guide on Diona. Honestly, she's a great character who I did not know was this great. Hopefully with this video you think the same. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If any of you do have any questions regarding Diona or would like for me to do a guide on a specific character, please let me know in the comments. Thank you all for watching and take care.